Welcome back. I'm really excited about today's video because today I want to talk about pricing your house. I specifically want to talk to sellers and how to properly price your house to get it ready for market. So when I talk to a lot of sellers, they don't want to leave any money on the table, and I completely understand that. When selling your house, probably the most expensive and biggest asset that you have, you want to make sure that you sell for the most amount of money possible and don't leave any money on the table at all. You want to sell for the most amount of money possible and walk away with the most amount of money that you possibly can. I totally understand that. That's what I would want to do as a seller. That's what all my sellers want to do. So I totally understand that, and I'm on your side, and I want to make that happen for you guys. But we want to make sure that we price it competitively and fairly, and make sure that you walk away with the most amount of money possible. So how do we do that? Can you overprice a house? Can you underprice a house? The answer to both of those questions is yes, you can. You can most definitely overprice a house, and you can also underprice a house. So let's talk about both scenarios. Let's talk about the pros and cons of both scenarios, and let's talk about which one you may or may not want to do when you're pricing your house. You know me. I'm Chad Scott, your local Kenosha realtor. I have buyers and sellers just like you reaching out to me every single week, asking me questions about how they can buy and sell their houses. If you have any questions for me about how to buy or sell here in the Kenosha racing area, reach out to me. Give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. All my contact information is down here below in the description of the video. I'm happy to help out any way they possibly can. Now let's jump into the video and see about pricing your house. So why is it important to accurately price your house? Well, you want to price your house as close as possible to the market value, what buyers are willing to pay for your house, and what other houses are selling for in the area. Because houses that are priced correctly sell within the first 30 days and often sell at 98 to 100% of list price. You obviously want to get as close to list price as you can. You want to get as close to what you're asking for the house or over as you possibly can. Overpriced homes tend to stay in the market for 2 to 3 times longer and often sell for 90 to 95% less than list price after price reductions. So after you've already lowered the price $5,000 to $10,000, you're going to sell for 90 to 95% under that price reduction after the house has already been sitting on the market for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And remember, the longer the house sits on the market, it drains on you. You have more and more showings, and you're just sitting there wondering yourself, when's my house going to sell? When can I move on to the next chapter of my life? When can I finally move on with my life? When can I move across the country to be closer to my kids? When can I move on to this new job that I'm moving on to? When can I move on to this next chapter? I want to move out of this house and move on. Maybe you're buying a bigger house because this house is too small for your growing family. When can I buy this bigger house and all my kids have their own room? Maybe you're buying a smaller house because you're downsizing because all your kids have moved away to college. When can I buy that smaller house and finally clean less, not have to worry about showings all the time? If you're overpriced, you're just going to sit on the market for longer. You're going to pay those holding costs, which means more taxes, more home insurance for longer because you've overpriced the house in the market. The buyers that are looking at the house are just not going to pay that overpriced cost. They're just going to look at your house and say that house is not worth that price. I'm not even going to submit an offer. I'm not even going to entertain it. I'm just going to look right past it and keep looking for houses that are in my budget. So what happens when you overprice the house? You have fewer showings due to filters that buyers put on their searches. So when buyers are searching for houses online, on Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, they put filters on their searches. They search for houses like 200,000 to 300,000. So if your house is priced at 310,000 because you feel that your house is worth 310,000 because your neighbor's house sold for 310,000 3 months ago, but your house is actually only worth 290,000 per what I said because the market has changed from 3 months ago and now the market is a little bit lower, but you still feel your house is worth 310,000. Buyers are going to put their search up to 300,000. They won't even see your house in their search because their search parameters are lower than what your house is. So they'll not even know that your house is for sale because your house will never come up on their search. They're not looking in your price range anymore. Their price range is well below. The price range that they're looking in is below what your house is priced at. So you want to make sure that your house is priced fairly and competitively to the market to make sure that you're catching all those buyers that are actually looking in the price range that your house should be listed at. When your house is listed too high, it creates this perception that there's something just wrong with the house. Buyers are like, why is this house listed so high? Why has it been sitting in the market for so long? Why are there no offers? Is there something wrong with the house? Is there a leaky roof? Is there a leaky foundation? Did a buyer put an offer on the house and then they have a really bad inspection report come back? What's wrong with this house? Why are there no offers? Why isn't it closed yet? Why has it been sitting in the market for a month and a half, or 2 months? What is wrong with this house? There has to be something wrong with it. It shouldn't be sitting in the market for this long. There must be something wrong with it. You don't want that stigma sticking with your house. So you want to make sure that you price it right the first time, so you don't have people looking at your house and saying there's something wrong with it and passing it by just because they think there's something wrong with it. Even though there's not, you know there's nothing wrong with it. I know there's nothing wrong with it. But the buyers looking out there, they don't know that. They just think there is. When you price it too high, it leads to multiple price reductions, which when buyers see this, they think that you, the seller, are desperate because they see all these price reductions. They see that you made a price reduction last week for $5,000, a price reduction this week for $5,000, and a price reduction 3 weeks ago for $10,000. They're saying, this seller is desperate. They really want to move. They keep reducing the price of their house. They'll take my lowball offer. I'll submit an offer that's $50,000 under asking price, and maybe they'll take it. Maybe you'll take it. Maybe you won't. Maybe that offer is insulting to you. I don't know. Maybe it's an offer that you've been waiting for. I have no idea. We won't know until that offer comes in. But it makes you look desperate as a seller. If you keep reducing the price, buyers are like, this seller is really desperate. They really want to move. There may be something wrong with the house, but guess what? I'm okay with the house that there's something wrong with it. I'll just submit a really low offer. I'll take my chances. I'll go ahead and buy this house, and we'll see what happens. So you don't want to look desperate. You don't want to price your house too high, and you don't want to look like that seller that's priced too high and looking desperate, like you have to move. So there's data to support that it takes houses that are overpriced longer to sell. So the National Association of Realtors, NAR, studies show that overpriced houses typically take 3 times longer to sell. So your neighbor's house that sold for $310,000 three months ago, the market may have been different. The market may have been hotter, may have been more of a seller's market 3 months ago. Whereas now the market is different. It's more of a buyer's market, more of a neutral market. And now prices have come down a little bit, or they've evened out a little bit. And now your house is only worth maybe $300,000 just because the market's kind of stabilized and prices haven't necessarily come down. They just kind of evened out a little bit. So now there's more competition in the market. There's more inventory, more houses for sale, more choices for buyers. So now sellers have to kind of even out their prices. They can't jack them up as high. So now your house is only worth maybe $300,000 instead of $310,000. So now instead of listing your house at $310,000, you should list your house at $300,000, and now your house will sell within that first week, maybe 2 weeks, just like your neighbor's house did. And I've actually had this happen. I had a past client before. She had a beautiful duplex. It was really nice. It was half rented out. It was a moneymaker. The duplex itself was making her money. It was covering her rent and making her a little bit of money on the side. She just didn't want it anymore. She thought it was worth a lot more than it was really worth. And she said to me, Chad, I want to list it for this price. And I told her, I said, Mrs. Seller, it's actually only worth this amount. But if you really want to list it for this price, we'll go ahead and try it at this price. But after a couple weeks, I really think that we should look at it again and maybe lower the price. And she agreed with me. She said, you know what? After a few weeks, if we haven't gotten any bites, I'll go ahead and consider a price drop. So we listed it at her higher amount. And like I told her, we had no bites. We had 1 or 2 showings, no offers, no suggestions of an offer. People were telling us in the feedback that it was overpriced. The house needed too much work, that they just weren't interested. So after a few weeks, we had a meeting again, and we talked about price reduction. I wanted a bigger price reduction, but we settled for a smaller price reduction. So we did a little bit of a price reduction, and then we had a few more showings. Again, people were just saying it was a little overpriced. Eventually, after a month and a half, 2 months on market, we finally got an offer. It was well below original asking price, below the price reduced to asking price. And she did end up accepting it just because she wanted to wipe her hands of it and just be done with the duplex. And so closer to what I originally suggested that she listed for. So it just goes to show that, the market does dictate what the price is. You as a seller saying that my house is worth this much does not necessarily mean that a buyer is going to pay that much for it. You may think that your house is worth X amount. That doesn't mean that a buyer is going to pay that amount for it. Our market is a free market system. A buyer will only pay what a buyer thinks your house is worth. So you may feel that your house is worth X amount of dollars, but if a buyer thinks it's only worth Y amount of dollars, a buyer is only going to pay Y amount of dollars. Now, you may get 2 or 3 buyers that are interested in your house and may drive that price up, but ultimately, you're only going to have one buyer that's going to pay Y amount of dollars for your house. So you have to attract that one buyer that's going to pay Y amount of dollars for your house. So next, let's talk about underpricing your house. So is it possible to underprice your house? So this is a strategic situation that often leads to multiple offers to help drive up the price. We saw this a lot during COVID, where realtors would underprice houses by $5,000, maybe $10,000, and driving a lot of attention to the house because a lot of buyers would be like, "Oh my God, that house is a steal. It's really underpriced. It has to be a value. Let's all go take a look at it." They'd get 10, 15, 20. I've seen as many as 50 offers in a house, and it would drive the price up because realtors would say, "We have multiple offers in the house." Buyers would all scramble and submit their highest and best offers, and it would just drive the price up to over what the sellers actually wanted for the house. So it creates a sense of urgency among buyers because buyers would be like, "This house is a steal. It is underpriced. It is a value. I have to have it before any other buyer gets it." So when a buyer sees that house is underpriced in their eyes, they say, "I have to have this house before any other buyer sees this value price house, and they steal it out from under me." So underpricing your house is a very strategic strategy, and it can work very well, especially in a strong seller's market. Now, I have done this a couple times in the past few years where my sellers wanted a certain amount of money for the house, but we weren't completely sure if we listed at that price that we would get that certain amount of money just because the market was starting to change a little bit. So I suggested that we listed at $5,000 to $10,000 under that amount. And then, believe it or not, we had 10, 15, 20 showings that next day into that weekend. And we ended up with 5 or 10 offers on the house and pushed that price, that asking price, that offer price up to at least the asking price that my sellers originally wanted. And they usually ended up with more than their original asking price that they wanted to list the house at. So underpricing the house does work. Even in a buyer's market, it can work. It's a little more risky in a buyer's market. A caveat to this is that if you do underprice the house and it's a slower market, or if it's a niche property like a horse farm or a property that's very rare, it can backfire on you and you may just get asking price or maybe even a little under asking price. Because if it's a really slow market like a buyer's market, or if it's a very unique property, you may just get 1 or 2 buyers that say, "You know what, I really love this property, but I'm not going to pay what you're asking for it. So why should I pay any more for it? There's nobody else that's really looking for it right now. So I'm just going to pay asking price for it." So if you're going to price it $5,000 or $10,000 under what you actually want for it, but it's a really slow buyer's market, you may only get an asking price for it. So it is a really popular pricing strategy is right now, even as we're heading into more of a neutral market, but it can backfire on you. I still recommend this pricing strategy, especially in today's market, January of 2025. But as we head into the new market that we're heading into, this pricing strategy may not hold up as strong anymore. So how do you price your home correctly? How do you know what to price your house? Do you just ask your neighbors on the street what they sold their house for? Do you look on Zillow and take the estimate? Do you just pick a number out of thin air? Do you look at your property assessment? How do you pick the number to list your house at? Well, that's where I come into play. You want to work with a real estate professional, your local real estate agent. Me, of course. You give me a call. I come to you. I take your property address. I come take a look at the house. I can do it over the phone without looking at the house, but obviously I'd want to take a look at the house and get a feel for the condition of the house, the neighborhood it's in, the layout of the house, all that kind of stuff. I would do something called a comparative market analysis, a CMA. I compare your house compared to other houses in your neighborhood, usually within a half mile to maybe a mile, depending on where you live at. If you're out in the county and there's not a lot of houses around you, I may have to go a little further out. Or if you're a unique property, I may have to go even further out. And I compare your house to other houses that are currently for sale and houses that have sold, usually within the last 30 to 60 days. And I compare all those houses to your house, and I see what they've sold for. And then I crunch all the numbers, I put them in the computer, and the computer spits out a few numbers for me. A high price, the highest price that it should sell for, a recommended price, and then a low price of the lowest price that it should sell for. Now, these are just recommended prices. These aren't hardcore set in stone prices. These are just what the computer thinks that it should sell for. Now, I bring these prices to you, and then I also tell you about what the local market trends are doing. Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? Are we in a transitioning market like we are right now? About the condition of your house. Does your house need a little work? Is your house immaculate? Is your house unique? Is it one of a kind? Does it have features that a lot of buyers are looking for? Does it have something that turns off buyers? What makes your house special? Is it in a neighborhood that everybody's looking in? Is it out in the county where everybody's trying to move to? Is it just over the border where everybody's trying to escape Illinois, so they all want to be just over the border? Does it have any unique features that makes it very desirable? When I'm doing your CMA for your house, I adjust it to a buyer's market and a seller's market, so that when I'm presenting it to you, it's already adjusted to a buyer's or seller's market, depending on the market that we're in. So when I'm talking to you at our sit-down meeting, I'll tell you what kind of market we're in, but your market analysis that I give to you, that I hand to you, that you keep, it's already adjusted to seller's or buyer's market. So those numbers that are on there, those numbers should already be good for buyer's or seller's market, depending on what we're in. Those numbers that the computer recommends, that should be good for the market that we're in right now. So the recommended price that the computer spits out, that's kind of like the sweet spot. So that price is usually slightly below or right at market price. That's usually right where most buyers are going to pay for your house. It's either right at where most buyers are going to pay for your house, or maybe just below what most buyers will pay for your house. That's usually right about what you're going to want to price your house at. You don't want to price your house too much above that, because if you price it too much above that, you're just going to turn off buyers. A lot of buyers are going to see your house, they're going to see that price, they're just going to keep scrolling. They're going to say, this house doesn't seem like it's worth it. You know, the pictures look beautiful, the marketing looks really good, but the house, it just seems too small. It's just not for me. I'm just going to keep scrolling and look for a house that's more my budget, more my style. I make these CMAs very unique to everybody, very unique to my sellers, very unique to every situation. They look like they're very standard, like I just print them off for everybody, that they're the same for everybody, but they're not. They're very unique to every situation, to every seller. So there's a lot of thought that goes into them. So that sweet spot that it prints out, that recommended price, is either right at the recommended, right at where most buyers are going to want to pay for your house, or maybe just below that price that most buyers are going to want to pay for your house. And like I said, you usually don't want to price your house too much above that price. A little bit is okay, but not too much above that price, just because you want to attract as many buyers as possible to your house. So some tips for sellers. So don't let emotion and attachment dictate your pricing. Think of this as a financial decision. You know, sure, you may have lived in your house for the past 20 or 30 years. You may have a lot of memories in your house. Your kids may have grown up here. This house may have a lot of emotional attachment to you. But don't let that cloud your judgment. You know, think of it as a financial investment. The sale of your house is going to net you a lot of money, hopefully. And think about it like that. Try not to let emotions get too much in the way of it. Just think of it as a financial investment, as a financial transaction. You don't want to let pricing and emotions be hand in hand. Try and separate them as much as possible. Let emotions sit over here and pricing be over here. Let pricing be at the forefront of your mind, and emotions be at the back part of your mind. Because you want the pricing to be at the forefront, because obviously you want to walk away with the most amount of money possible. And believe it or not, pricing at that recommended price will net you the most amount of money possible. Pricing it higher will probably net you the least amount of money, believe it or not. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but after you price drop it a couple times, or after you get that lowball offer, you'll probably end up netting less money if you price it too high. Tip number 2, stay realistic about the condition and location of your property. So take a look around your house. You know, does it need new paint? Is the paint around your house chipping? Do you need a new driveway? Do you need new doors? Do you need new doors? Do you need new carpeting? Do you need new flooring? Is the paint around your windows starting to chip? How's the outside? Do you need new landscaping? Take a look around your house. Take a look through your house through buyer's eyes and tear it apart. You know, what's wrong with your house? What's good about your house? Make sure you look through it through your house through buyer's eyes, because it'll really open up your eyes to how your house really looks. And that way it'll help detach yourself from your house, and you'll really start to think about it as more of a financial transaction rather than an emotional transaction. Tip number 3, after you've listed your house, revisit your price if there's no traction within the first 2 or 3 weeks. So if you've had very few showings, and definitely if you've had no offers within the first 2 or 3 weeks, you definitely want to talk to your realtor and talk about that price. Or if you're selling it by yourself, definitely look at that price and talk about lowering that price, because there's obviously something wrong with the price. No showings, definitely it's a price issue. No showings and no offers, of course it's a price issue. Showings but no offers, definitely a price issue. No offers, most definitely a price issue. If you have showings, you'll probably have some kind of feedback, and your realtor should be able to tell you about that kind of stuff, about what kind of feedback you're getting. If you're working with me, which hopefully you are, I will be in touch with you at least weekly, telling you what's going on with your house, telling you about any kind of feedback we're having, giving you tips and tricks about how to market your house better, how to get more traction, how to market your house to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family, because maybe they have buyers to buy your house. You never know. But you want to make sure that you're talking to your realtor at least weekly about what's going on with your house, because there should be updates for you as a seller at least weekly. If you and your realtor aren't talking at least weekly about the sale of your house, then you may want to rethink that working transaction with that realtor. So hey, I hope that this video helped you out with the pricing of your house. I know it's a lot. I know that pricing your house can be stressful. I know that it can be a very emotional situation, especially if you lived in your house for a while. I know that when my mom listed her house a few years ago, it was very emotional for her, because she had lived in her house for 8 years, 10 years, and she didn't want to let it go necessarily, but she needed a downside. She needed fewer steps. Picking that price for her house was a big decision for her. I gave her the recommended price, and she ultimately listed a little bit higher than I told her to, and it ended up sitting on the market for a little bit longer than she initially wanted it to. It did sell less than the listed price, but it did end up selling eventually. Now for today's dad joke: how did the barber win the race? He knew a shortcut. But ha 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 ha. That's a good one, right? Funny, funny, funny. If you guys have any questions at all about this video or anything else that's real estate related, please feel free to reach out to me anytime at all. My contact information is down below this video. I have buyers and sellers just like you reaching out to me every single week, asking me questions about how they can buy or sell real estate in the Kenosha racing area. I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of the day, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.